Secretary of State Antony Blinken sat down with China's President Xi today in Beijing in hopes of easing tensions between the world's two superpowers. It was the first trip to China by a U.S. Secretary of State in nearly 5 years. CBS's Margaret Brennan is in Beijing tonight with more on what was discussed at the high-stakes meeting.
This 35-minute face-to-face encounter with Xi Jinping, China's all-powerful leader, is why President Biden sent Secretary Blinken to China.
The United States and China have an obligation to responsibly manage our relationship.
An intense diplomatic push meant to avoid a direct conflict with a nuclear power. Last month, a Chinese fighter jet buzzed a U.S. surveillance aircraft. Weeks before, a Chinese warship nearly collided with a U.S. ship. In 2 days of talks, Blinken's main goal was to persuade Chinese officials to resume contact between the two militaries, cut off since August last year.
It's less a hotline and more regular engagement, regular communication, so that they understand what we're doing and not doing.
But Xi did not agree. U.S. sanctions on China's defense minister were an excuse for why he refuses phone calls. Espionage is another pressure point. China recently expanded a spy station in nearby Cuba to intercept U.S. communications.
Did you raise the listening post in Cuba that was recently disclosed and you talked about?
I did. I'm not going to characterize their response, but I told them that this is a serious concern for us.
Blinken's original February trip was postponed after the shoot-down of a Chinese spy balloon over U.S. airspace. The two countries did agree to work together to combat fentanyl.
I made very clear to China that this is an area where we want and need to see real cooperation.
Ingredients for that narcotic came from China. Blinken said the Chinese government can control the flow of that deadly drug, which is the #1 cause of death for American adults under 50. President Xi notably said progress had been made, but U.S. officials said there were no breakthroughs on tough issues like Taiwan. Xi Jinping warned the U.S. not to hurt China's legitimate rights and interests. One key development, Blinken pressed for the release of 3 Americans that the U.S. considers wrongfully detained.
I not only raised but talked some length about the individual cases of the detained Americans.
Are we in a place, though, as two governments where you're negotiating or even talking about a prisoner release, or is this just...
Yes, we are.
You are?
We are.
Secretary Blinken told me that President Xi may come to San Francisco in November and meet with President Biden there. But, Jerika, a lot depends on managing this relationship. It's complicated, and there are a lot of tensions. As for President Biden coming here to China, Blinken told me, never say never.
All right, Margaret Brennan for us tonight. Thank you.